Hi guys, it's Jordan from B&B Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your Bailey Approach 730. So it's an Approach Autograph 730 with the Audi Tech body shell. As you can see on there, that's the Audi sticker. The Audi Tech one will be somewhere else, just up there. So if we start on this offside here, we've got your two fridge vents just here. So when you've got the fridge lit up on gas, you can normally feel a little bit of warm air coming out through this top right hand side. Gas locker, which you have had the gas low bottles fitted. Couldn't fit both larger bottles in here because of the size of the locker. So these are the two biggest ones that we could fit in here. To turn the bottles on, you need to go anti-clockwise on these little dials. Bear in mind this one's sort of back to front, so you have to go, turning it off is like this, and turning it on is like this. Alright, so that's how you turn the bottles on. You need to turn those bottles off before you start driving. That's an absolute must. And the bottles at the moment are completely empty, to be fair, because we haven't actually got anything here in order to fill them up with. They have been pressurized and tested, but the first time that the bottles will be used properly is when they get filled up. The filling point for the bottles is just here on the locker door, and you can see they're nice and easy, just like a bayonet fitting really. So easy as that. Your freshwater filling point is this one just here. So basically you can put a little plug into this, and it comes off either with a pump that goes into a tank or a tube that goes off to a hose point. So that's how you fill up your fresh water in these vehicles. And your hookup point is this one just here. So if you want the electric hookup plugged in, that's where you go to for that, and that'll give you access to any sort of 240 volt or household appliances basically. Just at the back as well, we have also got your wastewater drain off point. And the only other thing on this offside really is the Aldi boiler vent. So if you've got the boiler lit up on gas, you should also feel hot air coming out through these little sides here, and that can just sort of definitely, sort of prove to you that it's working properly and that it's lit and doing what it should. In the cab, there's not a huge amount to go through. These cabs are pretty straightforward and nice and easy to use. You've got the 6-speed manual gearbox just there. Air conditioning turns on from this switch just here in the middle. All of your heater controls are these two just here. The hazard warning lights from there. You have got the slightly newer style Peugeot, that's a standard fitted head unit up there, with the steering wheel controls and functionality there as well. You got the reversing camera up there, which is really good. I actually used that to park this up a minute ago. But yeah, so it's not really a huge amount more, to be fair, apart from the fact that you've got the electric adjusting mirrors and windows from there. You have, of course, got the self-leveling suspension, which I will run you through when we get around to the other side, because that's where it is. When you do the self-leveling, it is always a good idea to have the engine running. I'm not sure whether it actually is. I'm not sure whether it sort of works or doesn't work when the engine's off. But we found that when we were using it and testing it, that it works. It seems to work when you start the engine up, basically. So if you can just do that before you start trying to do the self-leveling, I think that does help. So under the bonnet on these particular chassis, nearly everything sort of levels wise is over here on the left hand side, which is always really nice. So you've got the washer fluid in this little reservoir here. Power steering fluid sits in this reservoir here, and your engine coolant is this one. If you want to get to either of those, you just need to take this little cover off here with these little lugs. So you just turn those, each one like that, and then this will just lift off. So that's how you get to those. The brake fluid is in this reservoir just here, filled up there to the top. Engine oil is this one just down here, and you can probably just about see. Really nice and clean. There's nothing kind of white or gunky about that, so there's no water in the engine. Absolutely lovely. And the engine oil dipstick is this one just down here. The paint code for this vehicle is written down here, 632, and your chassis plate is just here. The engine battery on these chassis post 2008 sits under the floor in the cab just in front of the passenger seat. So if you want to jump start it, you've got a positive terminal just here underneath this little cover, positive there, and your earthing or negative point is this one just here. So positive over there, negative here, that will jump start the vehicle. Inside the passenger door, you've got your bonnet release handle just here. So you do actually have to have the door physically open to do that. And your diesel filling point just down here. There's no AdBlue or anything like that to worry about, so it's all nice and easy. So you've got your really nice size awning across the top there. That will be factory fitted. Okay, so the next bit I want to show you is your flush and toilet lockers. So the flush fluid goes in this little part just up here. Sorry if it's a little bit windy. So this is your pre-mixed pink fluid that needs to go inside here. So basically, just use the toilet like I'll show you in a minute. If you start to run out of your flush fluid or it stops pumping through, just fill this back up with a little bit of pre-mixed fluid, and then after not very long at all, it will start pumping back through. The locker underneath, see there is your new style Thetford cassette toilet. So empty it out from this point just here, and when you're actually physically emptying it out, you should hold down the little orange tab there at the back to release a little bit of pressure basically. Blue fluid goes back inside here once you've finished emptying it, and then push it back in. And that is it. So once you close that up, I'll just show you, you've got this key just here. Simple as that. Now that's locked. Same with this one. Key in, twist it, they're locked. Locker at the back is the one with the self-leveling suspension in it. Awning winder is here as well. Also the carpets that go in are there as well. The freshwater filling point that I was saying about is this one. So it's really, really simple once you get the, give it a go. So you have got a remote control to do this, but in my opinion, it's just as easy to just come to this box just here. So as I said, it is easier to do it when the engine's running. So if I was you, I would just start the engine up, come to the back here, switch this one to on like it is now, and then you can basically just move. So this basically correlates to each front near side, front off side, like that. And so it's literally just a case of having a look underneath whilst you're doing it and just putting them down or back up. Sometimes it's helpful to have like a little tiny spirit level in the vehicle so that you can actually level it up properly. Yeah, just sort of put them down manually, one by one, or you can obviously do two at a time, like that. So yeah, super easy. Once you got it to the point where you want it, just let go of it and they'll stay there for as long as you need it to. We had them up on the show the whole weekend and they didn't sort of drop or move or anything like that, and it's really nice and solid. So that is how you use that, and then once you're done with it, just flick this little switch down and that'll just completely isolate it from going through again or moving. And so I think that is about it really for the outside. So I'm just going to jump in. So before I get started on the control panel and all that sort of thing, I will just show you down here. I've taken this little cover off, which is just there on the bed there. So down here under this little cover, and by the way, we are going to be cleaning it. It's just it's a bit messy after the show. So this cover here basically shows us the water pump, which is the blue part on the right, just there. So there's your whale water pump and your freshwater tank. So just take this off. So you can just about see in there, you've got a little red bung. So the red bung is how you drain out this water tank, this fresh tank. Now obviously you've got the wastewater drain off is on the outside, like I showed you. Just close that back up. Wastewater drain off is on the outside, like I showed you, but that is where your freshwater drain is. The other thing I wanted to just point out is that if you are in trouble one day and you can't get the freshwater filling point on the outside, if you can't get something plugged into that, you can obviously come in here, take this cap off. If you can actually get like a watering can or something into the vehicle, you can just fill it up directly from there if you wanted to, or if you needed to. That's just like if that's ever something you needed to do, that's how you can do it. But that's what that little cover covers up down there, and it just literally drops back in basically. That's it, there you go. Okay, so the control panel above the door is super simple. Literally all you've got, once you've turned it on by pressing the master button up there, you'll then get access to all of your lights. The lights will come to life basically. You can turn them all off with the lights on and off switch there. The awning light is powered by this awning button. All right, so I'll leave that off for now because obviously you don't need it on. And the water pump switch. So the water pump is actually currently on, I believe. So now when I come to the sink here, we should have pressurized water. There we go. So that's pressurized water on the hot side. And that's pressurized water on the cold side. So that basically tells me two things. It tells me that we've got enough water in the fresh tank to actually use the fresh water and pull it through with the pump, and also that we've got enough hot water in the boiler to light the boiler up and get hot water coming through the tap. If I didn't do that just then, and I didn't check to see if there was pressure on the hot and the cold side, then there's absolutely no way of me knowing that the boiler is actually full of water at all. Okay, so the downside to, or the problem with not doing that is if you try and light the boiler up, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. If you try and light the boiler up without any water in it at all, essentially what you're trying to do is boil an empty kettle. Because if you try and heat something up where there's actually nothing there, it will overheat and you will burn wires out, etc. So really important just to make sure that you've got pressure at the hot and the cold side before you start going ahead with anything on the boiler. But once you've done that, as I said, you can come up here. When you've finished with the pump, you don't have to do this. If there's no leaks and there's no sort of nothing nasty about it, you don't have to do that. But in my opinion, if for whatever reason you were sleeping at night and a pipe burst off or something and the pump started running, if the pump's running for an hour or two, it will burn itself out and you'll have to get a new one. So in my opinion, it's just easier or a good practice just to turn the pump switch off when you finish with it. So just, you know, just a little tip basically. So you can go through here as well and see your freshwater level, wastewater level, fill internal tank. So that's basically if you have the external pump thing plugged in, you have to press that just there. Go back through to that. External temperature and probably internal temperature as well. There you go. Leisure battery is the one that you want to have on battery select because that's what we want to power the lights. Leisure battery amps, don't need to worry about that really. Leisure battery voltage, so that's really important to see. So 14.5 volts or 14.2 volts, that is the sort of voltage you would get if you had a hookup cable plugged in. Now I don't have the hookup cable plugged in, but that just goes to show, or goes to prove, just how good the solar panel is up on the roof. So normally, to be fair, a solar panel on the roof, a standard sort of motorhome solar panel, might chuck in, you know, a resting battery rate is normally around kind of, I don't know, 12.2, 12.3 volts. With a solar panel, you might look at maybe getting 13.5 at the very, very best. But this being on 14.2 just goes to prove that it's a really like top of the range solar panel, really working well. So that is really good to see. You've also got, if you can see there, you've got 2 sets of red and black wires, which tells me that you've got that's a duo controller, which basically means that it can charge up both engine and leisure batteries. So if we just have a little look through here on the control panel, it might, I don't know if it will, but it might show us the engine battery voltage as well. Let's just have a look on that. Okay, no, it doesn't. Okay, no, that was my bad. Sometimes you can go through and you can find the engine battery voltage as well, but anyway, it's just, you know, all I'm trying to say really is that the solar panel is really, really good. This little unit just here is your Aldi water reservoir, basically. So this is your heating water reservoir, and so if you can see there, you probably just see it moving around a little bit, bubbling around. Sorry, the camera's kind of not focusing very well. You can just about see it bubbling around a little bit. That's because I've got the control panel switched on, so the pump's running a little bit. You've got a minimum and a maximum line just there. If you find that it's a bit different now that this actually switched on, because it'll be bubbling up and over. But if you've got it switched off and you come in here and notice that it's below the minimum line, then you need to make sure that you put some more fluid in it. It's a specific coolant, and you need to have distilled water or deionized water, I think it is, to go into that. So it's probably worth checking in with us. If that ever does happen, just give us a ring and we'll sort of explain it. But just keep your eye on that water level there, because that is your heating basically. So keep your eye on that. You shouldn't ever really need to do anything with it, to be honest with you. It's just that if it does start running really low, it probably means there's a leak somewhere. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. So, as I said, I've got the Audi heating system switched on at the moment. It's not actually working because I haven't got the gas or the electric switched on at the moment, which I will explain to you in just a second. Hopefully that'll... It's a little bit of an awkward place to hold a camera, you see, so it's a bit... I'm trying my best. Okay, so if I just turn this little screen off just here for the moment, when I turn it on, it comes up saying high efficiency. So the first thing I want to do, if I want to sort of, you know, see what's going on, press this little menu button. It tells us that the Audi heating system is currently trying to get to 25 degrees. So that's like a thermostat basically. So we've set it to 25 at the moment. We haven't got the hot water switched on, which is this one just here with a little shower. We haven't got the electric hookup switched on, and we haven't got the gas on. If I turn the gas on here, it goes green. And so now the boiler will light up on gas, and it will get the vehicle to 25 degrees before it turns itself off. If I had the electric hookup plugged in, so I'll just turn the gas off now. There you go. If I had the electric hookup plugged in, I could go through 1, 2, or 3 kilowatts of power. In my opinion, 3 kilowatts is far too much. You do not need to use 3 kilowatts. 3 kilowatts is really, well, I think it works out to be about 11 or 12 amps. And so if you imagine, if you're plugged into a 13 amp pole, which is the most standard kind of, you know, ampage of pole on a campsite, you're literally nearly going to blow the pole up just by using 3 kilowatts on that one appliance. You know, if you think about it, you've got that there. So if you had 12 kilowatts going through on that, if you turn this electric hob ring on here, you're going to be over straight away, just with 2 things on. So basically what I'm trying to say is if you have that on 3 kilowatts, you basically can't use anything else on the mains because you'll overload it with power. So in my opinion, you're better off sticking to 1 or 2 kilowatts if you're on the electric hookup. I believe 2 kilowatts is roughly around 8 amps, 7 or 8 amps. 1 kilowatt, to be honest with you, is probably plenty, but there you go. And so if you wanted the hot water, 1 or 2, which is basically on or boost for that. Okay, so that's how you use that. So essentially, like I said, thermostat at the top, set your temperature for the inside of the vehicle, or turn your hot water on by going up on this one. If you have the electric hookup plugged in and you want to do it via the electric hookup, just choose what kilowatts you want to use. And if you don't have that and you've got the gas switched on, turn it on down here on the gas. When you want to turn it off, just press and hold there, and that's it. Okay, so next to the control panel, so I don't know why the camera keeps on going out of focus. Next to the control panel, you've got your TV aerial and 12-volt socket just here, as well as a 240-volt socket there. The idea for that is you've got this little TV bracket just here. So the idea is that you would have a TV here plugged in straight into that and use this lounge area to watch it from there. So that's where that is. If you want to use that, you can do it. I would, if I was you, if you are going to get a TV. Saves you having to go sort of plumb in more aerial points and all that sort of thing. Obviously there is that one over in the corner for the bedroom area, but as I said, that's just up to you how you like to do it. Okay, so that's the control panel and all that. What else do we have? Cab over here. So you've got a really nice over the cab light up there, which does open as well. Really important to make sure that all of these skylights are down and locked before you start driving. Something like this, again, I always say this, but I'm not trying to scare people by saying this, but if you left one of these open, any of these skylights really, to be honest, these smaller ones are obviously a little bit cheaper, but if you left any of these open and drove off and they flew off or broke, you're going to be looking at about £1,000 to have any of them replaced. Same goes for the windows actually as well. So if you ever have any of these windows open whilst you're driving along, I can pretty much guarantee that they'll break. And not only would you be looking for about £1,000 to replace them, but you'd also be waiting for about 3 months to get a replacement, because that's just how it is in the industry at the moment with the replacement windows. So it's just really like probably the most important thing really, to be honest with you, is making sure that everything is locked and completely closed over before you start driving. I see people all the time driving along past us at sort of 70 miles an hour with all the windows open. I just think it's, you know, if they'd seen how much they are to replace, they probably wouldn't be doing it. So anyway, right, so the next sort of thing I want to show you is probably the fridge. So the fridge is a 3-way fridge, which means it works in 3 separate ways, or 3 different energies. So if you want to, basically you've either got electric hookup, which is this one here. Focus, there you go. Electric hookup there, 12-volt, or gas. Okay, so essentially the way that you have to use these fridges, before I run you through how to actually light it up and all that, the way that you actually need to use these fridges is either get the fridge cold first via the electric hookup or the gas. Once you've done that, it might take a good sort of 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours to get completely cold. But once you've done that, you can then start your engine and switch over to 12-volt, which will keep the fridge cold whilst you're driving. Okay, so switching over to 12-volt, like I've just done there, currently isn't doing anything at all because I haven't got the engine running. And if this was one of the fridges with the electronic sort of symbols coming up here telling you, right now it would be coming up with a fault code telling me, no, the engine's not running, this isn't working. Same for if I went to this one here for the electric hookup, it would bring up a fault code because we actually haven't got the hookup plugged in at all anyway. So that obviously won't work. If I had the electric hookup plugged into the vehicle, I would personally have it here on the mains. If you don't have an electric hookup plugged in, then you have to go down to the bottom for gas. When you select gas, it's really simple what you actually have to do. But all you have to do, push in, you have to push in quite hard on these. But push in on this and that basically starts the igniter. You might not be able to hear it on the video because it is quite quiet from the inside here. You might just about be able to hear it. When you're pressing in on that, you need to be pressing in on this at the same time. So that will basically light the fridge up on gas when you do that. When the fridge actually lights up on the gas, you'll notice this little orange bar will go right up into the green. Once it's going up into the green, you can let go of this. Make sure that it stays up in the green, and that's it. You just leave it alone then, and it will just basically get cold on the gas. That's how you light it up. So, but that's the only, you know, that's the only reason you would want to use that one really is if you haven't got the electric hookup plugged in. You know, if you're on a campsite with electric hookup, it's just easier and just as reliable to use it on the mains there. So hopefully that makes sense. I will just quickly explain the 12-volt thing. So basically, every decent motorhome brand, so Bailey being one of them, obviously, has what's called a split charger or a split relay. The same thing, just people call them different things. So what that basically means is when you start the engine up, the alternator under the bonnet, as every car or van does, charges up the engine battery. But with a motorhome, you've got what's called a split charger, which basically splits that power that comes from the alternator, splits it off to the leisure battery as well, and also the fridge. So that when your engine's running, you can physically keep the fridge cold via the engine running, because obviously you can't have the hookup cable plugged in or the gas turned on when you're driving. So having that, you know, that wire running through from the engine through to the fridge and the leisure battery means that you can just keep the fridge cold whilst you're driving via the engine, basically. So that is how that works. The cooker, very, very simple. I don't really feel like, I never really go through these, to be honest with you, not in much detail anyway, because you have literally just got igniter, 3 burners on the top, which you've got a little diagram telling you which one is which. The electric hob ring at the back is literally just a case of choose 1 through to 6. That will only work when the electric hookup's plugged in, obviously. The grill is just down here. The only thing I will say with the grill is that it lights up from one side. So it lights up from this left-hand side. So when you try to light this up, you'll notice it will light up this side first, and you need to make sure that it lights up the other side as well. So it'll go whoop, all the way up to the front here on this one side, and you need to make sure that it lights up the other side as well. If it doesn't light up on the other side straight away, just give it a little blow in there, and it should just, you know, ignite the other side as well. And the oven is just down there, as you can see. So that is that. What have we got down here? So there's access to your waste tank down there as well. It's pretty unusual to have to get to the waste tank, to be fair, but if you did ever need to, then that's where that is. And I think the last bit to show you really is the bathroom. So the bathroom is really, really good size. You've got a nice size sink just here, which is hot and cold water, just like all the rest of it. Just untap the pump off, haven't I? The shower point is a little bit weird, but it comes out from the side there, and you've got your proper shower tap up there. The only bit that's really important for me to show you, to be fair, is the toilet. So you've basically got, let me just turn the pump back on just in case it works from that one. So what you've basically got is a flush fluid reservoir, which I showed you on the outside, which is on the back part of the toilet just here. When you press this blue button up here, flush fluid pumps around, and then you drain it out into the cassette by pushing this to the right. So that opens up the flap just there. Once that's all drained into the cassette, pull it back, and that's it. That's the toilet completely used. It should give you a little light here, a little indicator light here, telling you when the cassette's nearly full. But that is honestly it. It's really nice and simple. Yeah, okay. So I think I've shown you pretty much. We don't really go through the TVs, to be fair, because they're aftermarket fittings. We don't tend to go through them, and so I don't show you them on the videos and things, because that's not not a factory fitted thing. You can get to all the storage on the outside that I showed you on that outside locker. You can get to from underneath this bed, which is really nice. But there you go. So, okay, so I think I've shown you everything I can. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going through again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.